Hope you all are well and doing your studies as per schedule. So today you will learn the topic of the food poisoning. Food poisoning and poisonous food. So we are starting today with our topic. So we are starting with the topic today with the food poisoning. The term food poisoning is used in the two senses, the general sense and then the special sense. When the term we use in the general or a wider sense, it includes all illness resulting from ingestion of the food containing non-bacterial and bacterial products. That means it contains the organic and inorganic material. That means viruses, bacteria, and other unicellular organisms or non-bacterial. That is, other poisons may be contaminate the food and cause poisoning. When it is used in the special sense or in the restricted sense, it means that the poisoning is due to the bacterial products only, especially the botulism toxins. The bacterial products include bacteria and other toxins. That means only organic products cause. The poisons resulting therefrom is by convention known as the bacterial food poisoning. The non-bacterial food includes poisons derived from plants, animals, and inorganic chemicals. So many inorganic chemicals you learn in the irritant foods, irritant poisons. So many products can cause poisoning. When mixed in the foodstuffs or drinks can cause food poisoning. Food containing such products are by convention known as poisonous food. That food is called poisonous food. The illness is characterized by stimulants attack of many persons at the same time. Then so many people get ill, get sick at one time when they are eating at the same time from a restaurant, from a takeaway. So a suspicion aroused that it may or due to the same food that is so many people consume at one time. In the restaurant, in the food stall, in the canteen, the tuck shop, the history of the ingestion of common food by all the sufferers at the same time. The history is same, they consume the food from at one point. Similarity of sign and symptoms in a majority of the cases. So, sign and symptoms in the ER where the patients are taken, admitted, so the sign and symptoms remain same at one time and history is same, they consume the same food from at one time from the particular place, so the suspicion aroused it may cause maybe due to food poisoning. So this starts from the history and illness. Bacterial food poisoning is of three types: infectious type, toxin type, and botulism toxicity. These are the three types. Infection type of toxicity, the result from ingestion of a viable microorganism that multiply in the particular environment, in the particular seasons like summer. There are more chances of to get the food poisoning than in the winters because bacteria and other multiply very rapidly in the hot seasons. In the gastrointestinal tract and produce two infections like a Salmonella group of organisms and occasionally Shigella group. You heard about these organisms? They are commonly called the typhoid type of fever and other infections, especially in the GI section. So, Salmonella group of organisms and Shigella group, commonly called the infectious type of toxin. Toxin type, the result from toxin produced by the, not particularly by the bacteria itself, but the toxins produced by the bacteria, they cause the poisoning. Multiply organisms that have gained access to prepared food like antineotoxins produced by the Staphylococcus. So antineotoxins produced by the Staphylococcus itself it cause toxin type of the toxic food poisoning. Botulism toxicity. Sorry for it. Hello. Like, I'm lost, right? Botulism toxicity. This results from ingestion of performed botulism toxin in the Clostridium botulism. So this toxin, this bacteria, Clostridium botulism, produce the botulinum toxin, which actually causes the toxicity in the food poisoning. This is we have done already. The Salmonella group in detail. The natural reservoir of the Salmonella organism in the certain birds, mammals, reptiles, infection may be transferred by flies or by human carriers. There is a chain to transfer these type of poisons from certain birds or animals or human chain to particular food. Carriers employed in the handling of the food likely to occur whenever large amounts of food are prepared and unconsumed food kept for a long time for the future meals, for one day, for a day and night purpose, used for the dinner purpose, the day food may be called the Salmonella type of toxicity. So usually reported from canteen, restaurant, and hospitals. The hospital patients, they consume the food prepared for the hospital patients. The same food is consumed by so many people. So commonly, the group of people is suffered and reported ill in the ER at the same time consuming the same food. Shigella group. Shigella infection is the result of the contamination of food or water supplies with the feces of the individual who either have the disease or less often are asymptomatic carriers of the organism. So this type of toxicity is spread from carriers. The carriers who have a Shigella group of organisms, individual, and from the feces, from infected food, infected water supplies with the contaminated of this Shigella infection, it may cause the poisoning that is called Shigella group. It also causes the typhoid fever, Salmonella and Shigella group. Sign and symptom. The incubation period is longer than the staphylococcal food poisoning. The onset is sudden. A chill may be an initial symptom, followed by a chill with a fever, fevers with the chills, and followed by the headache, nausea, vomiting, severe abdominal cramps, marked prostrations. So these are the common signs and symptoms commonly caused the Salmonella and Shigella group of poison. Three characteristics that differentiate it from the staphylococcal food poisoning are muscular weakness. These are the signs and symptoms in detail. Muscular weakness, fever, persistent, very foul smelling diarrhea. So this is the particular signs and symptoms of a Shigella and Salmonella group of food poisoning. Now it's okay. The incubation period is longer than a Staphylococcal food poisoning. The onset is sudden. The chill may be with the fever with the chill symptom followed by the headache, nausea, vomiting, severe abdominal cramps, and marked prostration. In detail, the three characteristics that get differentiated from the Staphylococcal food poisoning are: the Shigella group is the muscular weakness. Shigella and Salmonella group differentiate from Staphylococcus food poisoning are muscular weakness, fever, persistent and very foul-smelling diarrhea. This is the main feature of the Salmonella and Shigella group of poisoning. The treatment of the Salmonella and Shigella group of poisoning: the stomach should be washed immediately. The stomach wash can relieve the sign and symptom immediately and get rid of the sign and symptoms. Bowel emptied by the cathartic way. If diarrhea is not present, you can do the cathartic way of emptying the bowel and stomach wash. Salmonella, for antibiotic of the choice I use chloramphenicol. For the Salmonella group, nowadays a wide range of antibiotics are available. In the olden days, the chloramphenicol is the treatment of choice in the typhoid fevers, in the food poisoning due to Salmonella and Shigella group. The chloramphenicol is the IV. Ampicillin or Ceftriaxone, these are the olden. Now the wide spectrum antibiotics are available. They are commonly used, but still chloramphenicol is the treatment of choice in a complicated typhoid fever. Chloramphenicol is very effective drug against the Salmonella and Shigella groups. Ampicillin or Ceftriaxone, nowadays Ceftriaxone is obsoleted from the treatment. Shigella organisms, ampicillin, tetracycline, cotrimazole, now also obsolete, that is used in the Ceftriaxone, are good for the ampicillin used. But tetracycline is also used nowadays at some places. But wide spectrum third generation antibiotics are used, and in the complicated cases, chloramphenicol is used. The rest of the treatment is symptomatic. So these are the treatment of choice for the Salmonella, Shigella group of food poisoning and typhoid fevers and other abdominal infections due to Salmonella and Shigella groups. Postmortem appearances: death occurs from these infections and the complication due to complicated fever, typhoid fever, or the food poisoning. These are those of gastroenteritis and general toxemia. General toxemia occurs and gastroenteritis occur. White gastroenteritis occur and general toxemia occurs. This may lead to death in the complicated cases. The mucosa of the alimentary tract is inflamed or even ulcerated. So in the postmortem, when the body cavities are opened on the autopsy table in the mortuary, the mucosa of the alimentary tract, small bowel, is inflamed or even ulcerated. This may confirm the food poisoning or infections like Salmonella and Shigella. Internal organs are congested. This is a classical sign of at the time of postmortem. When we open the body cavity, when we open the abdomen, we look for the details in the small intestine. And toxin, now the second type of poisoning is toxin type of. Bacteria itself not cause as much as poisoning, but the toxin produced by the bacteria, that is called the enterotoxins. It called the toxicity. The food must be contaminated by a strain of organism that produce enterotoxins. The bacteria produce enterotoxins. They call, for example, Streptococcus, Staphylococcus. These are commonly enterotoxin produced bacteria. They call the food poisoning. Actually, the poisoning is not itself by the bacteria, but the toxin produced by the bacteria and neurotoxins, they cause the poison. It must be suitable for growth of these organisms. The infected food must be kept in a temperature suitable for the bacterial growth and for a sufficiently long time. So, environment, the temperature can prohibit the multiplying of the bacteria, so that poisoning may not occur for a quick way, so that an appreciable quantity of antitoxin is not formed. So if you kept the food under the temperatures in the hot season like in the summers, so bacteria rapidly multiply and antitoxins produce, that is much more than the quantity of the bacteria, so it causes readily food poisoning, poisonous food. So when it consumed, so it causes readily food poisoning. Foods such as milk, custard, or previously prepared meat dishes are the chief sources of these type of antitoxins food poisoning. So most cases are due to some strains of Staphylococcal, which produce a heat-stable antitoxins. Most antitoxins are destroyed by the heat, but they are heat-resistant antitoxins. So Staphylococcal is said to be the most heat-resistant antitoxin-produced bacteria. So it causes the poisoning, a toxin type of poisoning. Other toxin-produced organisms which may give a rise to such food poisoning are Proteus, vulgaris, Streptococcus, viridans, milk streptococci called, or B. coli. These are called the Clostridium elchi. Clostridium elchi, commonly called putrefaction in the dead bodies. So these are the called most offensive bacteria. Staphylococca is the number one. Proteus, Streptococcus, Streptococci are said to be, B. coli, Clostridium elchi are said to be further than the Staphylococci to cause toxin type of food poisoning. So when they are present in the large numbers, so much more amount of antitoxins are produced. So food becomes toxic. So when it is consumed, it causes readily toxin type of food toxicity and food poisoning at the same time. So commonly in the large amount, like in the hospital kitchens, in the restaurants, in the where a large amount of people consume food from same place. So this type of toxicity, toxin type of toxicity occurs commonly. Signs and symptoms of the toxin type of toxicity already present in the food. Toxins that you see, the toxins are already present in the food. The symptoms develop rapidly with 1 to 4 hours. Rapidly toxicity occurs within half an hour to 1 hour or up to 4 hours maximum. The first symptom is salivation followed by acute gastroenteritis, and recovery is about 24 hours. So if the immunity already in the people of the patient, so recovery rapidly occurs and within 24 hours. Otherwise, a chronic illness occurs and sign and symptom occurs. Treatment, there's a largely symptomatic and on the same line as in the Salmonella food poisoning. The treatment, stomach wash and bowel evacuation should be in the treatment, in the lines of treatment, and the wide spectrum antibiotics should be used, and IV line should be maintained. So these are and a specific treatment is followed as in the Salmonella food poisoning. Postmortem appearances, when death occurs, same as those found in the Salmonella food poisoning, same in the toxin type of food poisoning. Now the botulism toxicity, the third and last type of food poisoning, the botulism. The toxicity due to term botulism is derived from botulimus, meaning the sausage, followed by the ingestion on improperly cooked sausage. So this is derived from this particular term. The causative agent is an anaerobic spore-forming bacillus, Clostridium botulinum, which produce an exotoxin, not an enterotoxin. In the toxin type of food poisoning, this bacteria produce exotoxin, that is Clostridium botulinum, produce exotoxin, which cause actually the toxicity. It is commonly found in the soil, commonly mixed up with the food crops like grains. The toxin mixed up in the grains and cause food poisoning. The toxin is therefore likely to be present in such soil contaminated uncooked or undercooked or canned food. In the anaerobic condition, it rapidly multiplies, like in the canned food. When it is packed, raw food is packed. At the time of packing, it is entered in the packing and multiply rapidly in the anaerobic conditions. So it is cause rapidly food poisoning. The foods that are most often responsible are meat, fish, and vegetables. Raw vegetable. When these types of foods are not cooked and packed, the toxins multiply very rapidly. The toxin is destroyed by the heat at 80 degrees centigrade. This is not 80 degrees. Right, the 80 degrees centigrade. The toxin is destroyed, not the bacteria. The toxin is destroyed by heat at 80 degrees centigrade for 30 minutes. For such a amount of heat, 80 degrees centigrade, if applied for a particular food for a certain time, so this type of toxins are destroyed at 80 degrees centigrade for 30 minutes. If the food is prepared properly, so the toxin may be destroyed and not cause the food poisoning or toxicity. The toxin paralyzes the muscles by blocking nerve impulses at the myoneural junction. It blocks the action of acetylcholine. This is the mode of action of the particular Clostridium botulinum, which produce the exotoxin. So this is the mode of action. It produces the blocking the nerve impulse at the myoneural junction by blocking the action of the acetylcholine. So this is the mode of action, how it causes food poisoning. Signs and symptoms commence within 12 to 36 hours. It requires a certain 8 to 12 hours to initiate the toxicity, but up to maximum 36 hours, the signs and symptoms are at the maximum level. The initial symptom is usually diplopia. It's common symptom, diplopia from the ocular muscles palsy, followed by the difficulty in the swallowing and speech, bulbar palsy, and respiratory paralysis. This is a very dangerous toxicity. It's a very dangerous toxicity in the food poisoning, botulism toxicity. So it paralyzes the smooth muscles. It starts from the eye, ocular muscle palsy, followed by the difficulty in swallowing in the throat and speaking in the throat, in the glottis, bulbar palsies, in the bulbar palsies, in the smooth muscles of the eyeballs, and respiratory paralysis, the smooth muscle in the alveoli. So that occurs rapidly due to the paralysis of the respiratory muscles in the alveoli level. Gastrointestinal symptoms are rare. This is not caused by directly on the GIT, but it acts on the nervous system, which actually run the smooth muscle, motor nervous system, which actually run the smooth muscles. So it paralyzes the very small, tiny smooth muscles of the respiratory in the lungs, respiratory system, and cause death. Gastrointestinal symptoms are very rare, and the temperature is normal or subnormal. But these symptoms, that is diplopia, muscle palsies, swallowing and speech difficulties, bulbar palsy, and respiratory paralysis are common, and death occurs commonly in this type of toxicity. Fatal doses, wrong written over here, fatal doses affect here. Fatal dose of contaminated food may be less than 5 grams. So 5 grams of botulism toxin is enough to kill a young adult within 8 to 20 hours or 30 hours. Death may occur within 24 to 48 hours maximum, or may be delayed for a week due to the toxin quantity is present in the body. The diagnosis rests on the isolation of the bacillus from food or patient vomit, fecal material, or viscera, vomitus, or the viscera to confirm the diagnosis of the toxicity and make the treatment. Now, in the treatment, the stomach should be washed out and the bowel emptied readily by the saline purgatives if necessary. But it not act on the GI. It is learned in the earlier slides. It not hit the GI system. It act on the higher brain centers. Then it act on the respiratory smooth muscles to be paralyzed. The administration of anti-botulism serum is urgency. This is the particular specific antidote. Anti-botulism serum is in urgency to save the life of the patient immediately in the early hours. And mortality rate is the 60 to 70% due to this toxicity. I asked earlier that this is very dangerous toxicity. There are 3 toxicities. Botulism toxicity is very dangerous because it causes paralysis of the smooth muscle in the respiratory center. Postmortem appearance, when death occurs, when a dead body is present, because forensics always interested in the postmortem diagnosis. The pathological changes consist of the congestion and the hemorrhages in all the organs, especially in the central nervous system. And degenerative changes occurs in the liver and the kidneys. And the isolation of the bacteria from the samples and finally diagnosed late. And also these viscera can diagnose, the toxicity can be diagnosed from the liver and the kidneys, and the degenerative changes occurs in the botulism toxicity. Poisonous food, the poisoning by article of the food due to the contained toxin principles. So a canned food may get toxins by 3 ways: contain toxin principles like bacteria and its antiviral toxins, metallic contaminations. The food is actually preserved in the cans. It causes the toxicity. The iron, the aluminum for a long time, and the wrong date is written over the wrappers, so it may cause toxicity. The metallic contamination or the food allergy. Food kept in the can for a long time, so food can cause allergies and cause toxicity. So poisonous food also causes toxicity. There's no any bacteria present in the food, but the can itself or the metal itself or the allergy itself cause the food toxicity other than the bacterial toxicity. Containing toxic principles, the articles of the food containing toxic principles are poisonous food grains, infected rye, adulterated oil, poisonous mushrooms. Then some of the foods, for example, these foods may itself cause poisoning. There is no any bacteria role in the poisoning. The common food grains affected is Lathyrus sativus, kesari dal. That is said to be a very dangerous. It is isolated very carefully in the isolation in the factory. So the lentils separated from the poisonous grains totally. Otherwise, it may cause very dangerous food poisoning and give rise to lythyrism, a specific paralysis of the lower limbs due to that particular food. The manifestations are usually neurological, spastic, paraplegia, and polyneuritis. So these are the manifestations of the neurological spastic paraplegia and the polyneuritis occurs. So, if the food itself causes poisoning, food grains or food portions, mushrooms, altered oil, so itself they cause the poisoning. So, polyneuritis, paraplegia, or specific paraplegia, rye produce convulsive or gangrenous type of ergotism. ERGOTISM, ergotism is the wrong written over there. So it also causes ergotism. Ergot is food particle would cause food poisoning or ergotism. Mushroom produce symptoms of irritant poisoning, neurotic poisoning. Metallic contamination, probably more common than the dangerous. Various metallic poisons occurred in the foodstuffs as dyes, preservatives, color matter. Such severe poisoning is not common nowadays, but safe packing nowadays is there, and safe metals are used to store the food for a long time. It is there, but it is still the food poisoning. To gain the money, they use the cheap metallic containers and the cheap preservatives to preserve the food. They still are there, but very rare. Containing toxic principles, the turnover, food allergy, the food allergy due to the sensitivity to certain articles of the diet, usually proteinous in the nature. It is followed by illness characterized by nausea that is called food allergy. A particular protein, articles in the diet that is sensitive to the particular person. Not all the persons are sensitive, but a particular person is sensitive to certain foods. So it causes illness characterized by nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, joint pain, and urticaria. Urticaria, many articles of the food are implicated, like so many seafoods like shellfish, eggs, tomatoes, strawberries, and the mussels. These are type food that particular persons are allergic to a certain food. That may actually cause the food allergy and not the poisoning. And food allergy causes very urgency reactions, and the person dies due to the allergies. But it's very rare. When it occurs, it is very dangerous. Antihistamines and steroids are the choice of treatment in the food allergies. So this is all about the food toxins, bacteria, metals, food allergies due to food poisoning. So this is all about the food poisoning. Food poisoning due to the toxins, bacterial toxins, metallic toxins, and food allergy. Thank you very much. It's all about today's class. Thank you very much.